Welcome to another live stream Legends. Well, guys, Bitcoin has set a new all-time high and the celebrations are strong. However, I want to keep a level head with everything going on and discuss some potential signs and structure to watch for, how I'm planning to tackle this volatile market, etc., etc. So with that, let's hop right into it, guys. The first thing I want to explain, guys, is you can see on my chart currently, basically I have this 4 hour chart color coded, right? So there's actually a lot of people have a couple minor misunderstandings about my Stuber fib strategy. So I just kind of wanted to outline how these trade setups typically play out, because honestly, the bearish scenario hasn't actually been invalidated yet. That being said, I'm not even looking at it bearishly right now. It's just that the Stuber fib itself hasn't been invalidated. That's all there is to it. The fact that we're consolidating above all-time highs right now, I can't really complain about that. But just as a typical Stuber fib setup goes, after we lost this trend to the upside here, that's where basically you'd be looking for that retracement. Obviously, we had this micro trend where we were setting lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, and until that ended up breaking around that 89K level, we had that continued micro downtrend. After that break, that's where I start to look for the full swing retracement, basically. So that's basically resistance starting at the 786, which was at about 102K, and the invalidation above the 115 is way up around 115K. Yes, that's a very big range, but that's because it is a macro view. This is 4 or so months while this range has played out. So yes, it's a very large range, obviously, but basically anywhere from 102 to 115K is fair game for a rejection as far as a Stuber fib setup goes. I know a lot of people think that if it breaks above the 886 that it's invalidated. That's not how I look at them, because how I have this color coded, you guys, yes, the Stuber fib itself, that's my purple box here, right? That ranges from approximately 102K to 106K. After that, my yellow zone here, I'm considering this basically double top territory between the 886 and the full retracement. And then up to the 115, that's where we start to watch for if there happens to be some sort of a swing fail. So anywhere in this area, I'm still just moving forward. I want you to understand here, I'm no longer as bearish as I was, because this wasn't just a wick above all-time highs and then a hard rejection, anything like that. The fact that we're actually consolidating above this for a couple days here is a nice sign, in my opinion. But I still want to be very open to the idea that we could see, even if it's bullish, but some sort of a pullback, some sort of a rejection at some point in this next little foreseeable future here. Just because, like I said, it's not me being bearish. This is just a typical Stuber fib setup. That's the invalidation level, right? So this is where I don't mind looking for hedges. I'm going to talk about the one that I recently took. I had mentioned it in the channel earlier. Basically, anything on a 5-minute, when I see a bearish Stuber 5-minute in the resistance zone, that's where I'm willing to hedge a position. And right now, like, I already bumped my stop loss to break even, because I don't trust the shorts that I've been taking for the last few days here, just because we have looked strong. I'm still willing to short, but they are risky and they are very quickly being updated to stop to break even. And usually they're just getting stopped at break even, or hitting my first take profit or two, which are the Stuber scalp levels, right? The 0.5 and the 214 fibs. Obviously not on this one, because this is a massive one. But basically, as long as we're in resistance, I'm looking at any time I can get some sort of a lower time frame, very tight risk type of a hedge setup, I'm still going to take it just to protect myself. Again, it's nothing against where the market is standing right now. It's just looking for a very tight invalidation setup for something, just as an insurance play, if anything, right? Insurance purposes, because things could remain very bullish, but climb something like this, and we could see a big pullback, something like this. And if that happens, I want to be ready for it. That's why I'm willing to take those hedges. At this point, it's not like I think we're going into a bear market where we're, testing. Well, actually, these levels would still be quite valid, in my opinion. But it's not that I think we're going straight into a bear market or anything, because the structure has totally changed in the chart at this point. Even though it's only been a day or two, I was just kind of waiting for that invalidation. I'm usually trading the 5-minute anyway, so I really don't care which way the market goes. I have no problem trading either direction. I have been favoring looking for shorts as that hedge in this whole zone, but like I said, very quick to update stops, very quick to take scalp size profits, because I don't have a ton of faith in either direction, right? Because, well, actually, I have more faith in the bulls right now just because we broke all-time highs. But basically, let's break it down like this. This whole zone that we're in right now, no matter which side of the fence you're on, it's a dangerous level. You are basically either, I mean, playing breakout plays is a little bit risky because, again, my resistance for this swing fail level, we're still in this resistance. So you're either longing into resistance here or you are shorting against a very powerful trend, right? So no matter which way you're looking at things, I think this is a very dangerous zone, and that's why I don't have a ton of faith in either either direction right now as far as looking for a new swing trade. I just don't have a comfortable one right now. I'll keep watching the 4 hour. Now that we've broke some structure, if we start staircasing or anything like that, then boom, you can start buying retests. But as it stands, I just want to see how structure forms, and if we start staircasing, yeah, great. Then at that point, I can look at going for more of a swing long. But right now, right into resistance or into a breakout is just a little bit risky without being able to get some sort of a tight stop, right? Other than like if I can get a pullback on the 5 minute, something like that, yeah, I would love to get into some sort of a new scalp position that turns into a runner, then fantastic, right? But I'm just playing things very cautiously for now. As far as Bitcoin, one thing that even for the last several weeks, even though I've been a little bit cautious on Bitcoin while we're trading at resistance here, something that I have been talking about in my last couple videos is I'm actually more bullish on altcoins right now than Bitcoin, just because, even as Bitcoin was trading into resistance here, yeah, sure, we've gone a little bit higher, but Bitcoin did get back to its macro resistance, right? Where we have a bunch of altcoins, Solana's not even close to that macro Stuber level. Ethereum, very much the same thing. It just looks like altcoins even, and I don't think they have necessarily topped, but even if they have not got that retest of macro resistance yet. So I just think that either way, that I believe that there's a lot of room to the upside with altcoins. And that being said, especially when I look at micro caps and that sort of thing, I'll look at a few in a little bit. But, some Solana meme coins and stuff like that, a lot of them have very small market caps and have basically, they died months ago and they kind of flatlined, and all of a sudden you're seeing volume picking up. You're seeing them starting to break very tightly coiled consolidations and stuff like that with huge potential upside. Obviously, if something spooks the market, altcoins are going to get absolutely devastated again. That's just something that you have to understand, that they are dangerous. They have their own level of danger involved because honestly, they trade as, they're as volatile as using high leverage on Bitcoin. They're, a lot of them are moving 50 to 100% a day. That's very common in the meme coin sector. So I'll get into a few of those in a little bit. But my point being that I think that there's more potential in the altcoins at this point because just the fact that Bitcoin has broken all-time highs. The best thing for the altcoin market would be if Bitcoin starts forming some sort of a range. The fact that it broke all-time highs, and now if it could do something like this where it just consolidates above all-time highs, that would give altcoins the green light to go absolutely absolutely parabolic in my opinion. With the market not being spooked at all-time highs, not seeing much of a retracement, just seeing more of a time-based correction. I think at that point, altcoins are going to go absolutely fucking nuts. And, that's why, I never caught any big swings to the upside here. I caught some scalps. I caught some scalps to the upside and the downside on this trend, but I wasn't confident in either direction basically for a long-term swing hold as we got this bounce. But what I did do is absolutely crushed this downside and was buying spot down at these levels. Even though I was still feeling bearish, I thought it was likely we get some sort of a bounce. And again, even if Bitcoin would have got a serious rejection, like I was talking about the possibility of, I still thought that altcoins have that potential for that one last hurrah, right? Because just typically in a market cycle, after Bitcoin hits its all-time highs, Bitcoin finds its actual top and sees its rejection. or starts consolidating, forming a distribution pattern, whatever it ends up doing, altcoins generally, get that money and that profits diversifying into higher risk stuff. And that's kind of what we see happen later into the cycle. So basically, I've been more bullish on altcoins than I have on Bitcoin, basically, especially after we started hitting resistance here. So yeah, I've been accumulating. I know meme coins are dangerous, but my meme coin wallets have been crushing it the last few weeks. And, so even though I wasn't longing Bitcoin, that was still my way of playing the bullish side of the market. I wasn't really using leverage on them. With FWOG, being it's a higher market cap and it is on BloFin, I was actually trading FWOG with leverage recently. I'm actually in a FWOG long right now. Let me bring up the chart. I will get back into Bitcoin. There's a few more things that I want to go over, but basically had a Stuber fib on FWOG and still have about a quarter of that position running. Again, just like any position, I was taking profits on the way, but I'm going to let some run because I also want to bring up a longer time frame chart of this. This one really caught my attention the other day. Sorry, I want to go to the older chart. And something that caught my eye on this daily chart is with the Trendmaster indicator, we got the first ever buy or sell signal with this indicator on a daily time frame. And on meme coins and low cap coins and just coins without much history, quite often that turns into a very big signal. On top of that, with just bare naked market structure here, looking at the very micro time frame here, actually, sorry, I should say micro trend of the daily time frame. Okay, so it's not like it's a 1 minute or anything, but we had this high, higher high, confirmed higher low, higher high, confirmed higher low. So at this point, we could actually pull a fib, something like that, for the micro trend, right? If we drop that, then chances are we would end up testing support of the full range. That's like what I was talking about with Bitcoin earlier, but we haven't broke the micro trend yet. So at that point, look where we ended up finding support, right? We wicked a little below the 886, but even the candle bodies were respecting that. Sure, it is possible the whole thing has played out now because we did end up testing the first target, the 0.5, how much of a, from the 886, that was about a 30% move to the upside. Sure, that's one of the Stuber Scalp targets as far as that range goes. So maybe, if the market ends up getting spooked, you know what? Maybe it happens, and I mean, well, it is what it is, basically. But that structure on its own, still the micro trend going to the upside, as well as, like I said, the Trendmaster with that buy signal showing support right around that fib pocket right now, right? So a little bit of additional confluence there. So with that, I've started looking at this one because I think it is like 100 million market cap or something like that. So there is actually some trading going on. There is some decent volume. There's decent numbers there. So I'm okay playing this one with a little bit of leverage, more like 10x rather than the classic 69x on Bitcoin. But again, just more so looking at altcoins rather than Bitcoin, to be completely honest. But Bitcoin, going back to this, I want to go over a couple of red flags. Like I said, just the fact that we are still technically in this potential swing fail zone, right? Added to that, with the weekly chart, we do have the RSI getting that bearish divergence that I was looking at, right? I was warning that quite often we see this in double top territory or Stuber fib territory. Either or, we are still in double top territory. And that is a nasty divergence going from overextended down to that 70 line. That's a very specific one I look for. That's why I got bearish back here as well. That's why I got bearish here as well. Yeah, eventually it reversed. But when you look at the size of those moves, I mean, that was a 30% correction to the downside. That was another 30% correction to the downside, right? So the last two times that we've seen that type of a divergence on the weekly, we have seen a 30% correction, and this one's actually a lot bigger than this one. So for the bullish trend to continue here, I really want to see that 115 fib invalidated. That would give me a lot more hope in the market. And I shouldn't say even give me some hope in the market, because again, guys, we have broke all-time highs. I do see reasons to be bullish. It's just that there may be some sort of a pullback, right? So I would feel better about the trend just continuing from here rather than some sort of a big pullback. If we could break above that 115, like I said, around 115K, and as well get the RSI on the weekly back into overbought conditions, that would be beautiful. I love to see the RSI in overbought conditions in an uptrend, because at that point that's just showing that, hey, in an uptrend we're not necessarily overbought, we just have a shit ton of buying strength, right? The relative strength index. So back here, I mean, as soon as we got into overbought, look what happened to the price, right? We still got a nice big move to the upside. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to see happen here, that we break this invalidation as well as send the RSI into overbought above that 70 level. That would basically remove any worry that I have on the price. Like that would basically be okay, strap in kind of a thing. But again, just kind of want to try and keep a level head, just look at potential bearish scenarios, just keeping an open mind that, you know, Zeus, like you said earlier, you know, it's not necessarily a terrible place to take a little bit of profits on some positions and stuff like that. I'm not saying to panic sell. It's not like the market looks terrifying or anything like that. It's just that, honestly, and I'm looking at doing the same, right? I'm looking at, you know, possibly cashing out a little and, you know, buying a new vehicle and shit like that. Just because we, you know, no matter how you look at it, yeah, we could go a lot higher. That's just like any trade setup I take on the 5 minute or the 1 minute, we could go a lot higher. But taking profits on the way, you know, when you were bullish down here with this little W breakout, you know, being bullish down below 20K, I think taking profits above 110,000 US dollars is not necessarily a terrible idea. I understand a lot of people never got back into the market cycle until we were back, you know, closer to all-time highs and media starts bringing it to their attention and all that sort of stuff again. But a lot of us were in for very nice gains already. So that's something to consider as well, right? The monthly chart, I still have my concerns with this just because of this bearish cross that we had on the Wave Master indicator, just because every other time this has happened, and even the timing lines up quite well with the previous cycle. You know, this, I really want to see this cross back bullishly. That is a little bit of a concern that I have, especially that it came from overextended to the upside. Then we got that bearish cross. Generally speaking, that has been a cycle reversing signal. So again, it does not have to happen, and we are going to have to see. I mean, like I said, I think right now things look very bullish, but again, we are just in that rejection zone. You know, exactly how we feel right now is what ended the previous market cycle, right? Again, that same RSI divergence, right? We have that overextended down to that 70 level. We have that double top territory. We went a little bit higher. But again, if we pull that fib, that bearish Stuber fib, notice we never did invalidate that 115. That was the cycle ender. The exact setup that we have in the charts right now ended the last market cycle. The last bull market anyways. It was bear market on from there. So it's not that I just want to be open to the possibilities of not getting blindsided if something happens, and why I'm still open to the idea of taking hedges short is just because of something like this, right? Just to protect myself, because I don't really think that we'll see the market cycle end the exact same. That would be freaking hilarious if we got the exact same pattern to reverse the cycle again. I just think that's a little bit too obvious. So I don't necessarily think it's going to actually end here. But again, it is the exact same setup that we had back here. So just something to consider there, right? Go back to a shorter time frame. Like I said, I am in a little bit of a head short. My stop loss is already at break even, because again, I don't have a ton of faith in the bearish side right now. This is strictly to protect myself. I was actually looking at this as more of a swing fail, but it would have worked as a Stuber fib as well, obviously. Just looking for where we failed to break out there. Basically, we got our rejection. I took a little bit of a head short. But yes, if you ended up playing it like a Stuber fib, same thing. We went a little bit higher, but if you pulled the fib like that, we never did invalidate that 115, right? In fact, we did have the Stuber fib play out here from the 786. hit the 0.5 fib, hit the 214 fib. And again, the second time you would have got more laddered entries. If you played it a second time, I sometimes don't, like usually after I play a Stuber fib once, and I never did play it this first time. But if I do play it once like that and we end up climbing, the next time I look at it, I look at more of a swing fail setup just to keep that risk a little bit tighter, because generally if you're going to keep tapping away at that resistance, you know, there's a better chance that you're going to eventually break it. So every time you take the same Stuber fib, the risk factor goes up a little bit, right? So something like this, yeah, we've obviously hit the 0.5 fib already, very close to the 214. You know, I do front run my targets a little bit when I take them, so it's hard to say if I would have hit that or not. I haven't taken any off this hedge because again, this is more for insurance purposes. Stop loss is at break even. I'm letting the whole thing run for now, but that is calculated risk. I'm not looking at this as a scalp. I'm looking at it as insurance. So yeah, we'll have to see with that. Actually, I want to check what the Trendmaster indicator is saying. So we still have higher sell signals and higher buy signals. If we end up setting a lower buy signal on the 5-minute Trendmaster indicator, I think that would be a good warning that things may reverse for a little bit. So a lower buy signal followed by a lower sell signal. Might be also a good indication of, you know, hedging a short or taking a scalp short, or even hoping that the whole trend reverses, you know, as long as you keep your risk management tight. You know, that could be a warning with the indicators to watch for. The 4-hour trend, I did want to bring up a few indicators. Liquidations is one that I wanted to bring up. You know, there's a lot of liquidations starting to form below us. So if I were a market maker, there's a good chance that I would want to grab some of that liquidity before carrying on higher. So that's another reason why, you know, does it make sense to see some sort of a rejection in this swing fail zone? You know, it makes sense. I'm not saying it has to happen, but, you know, just looking at things with a level head, does it make sense that we could drop to the downside? Yeah, you know, there is a lot of liquidity to the downside. That being said, looking at things the opposite direction, guys, you know, we have kind of mixed signals, because if we look at the long short ratio, I mean, Binance retail is extremely short heavy. You know, retail is heavily trying to short this bounce, this climb, this pump, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, that's rocket fuel to shoot up higher. Obviously, you know, we could reverse at any time, but just the fact that retail is trying desperately to revenge short this. And I know I myself would fall into that because I'm retail and I am shorting, but the difference is I know how to manage my risk on that short, where there's a lot of people who are just YOLO shorting. They just think, oh, we're due for a correction. We've pumped too much. We're going to correct. That's not necessarily how trading works. Or just, you know, I'm just going to add to my position the whole way up. You know, there's a chance that we invalidate that macro Stuber fib and just go absolutely parabolic. And I would not want to be stuck in a position where I have to continue adding to that, because who knows what the price target is, right? I mean, if Bitcoin is going to go parabolic from here, I don't have a price target. Honestly, I mean, you could look for fib extensions and that sort of thing, but I would just be looking for structure to change. I would be looking for exactly what happened here. I would be looking for basically if we start staircasing higher. Actually, I'm going to use this guy. But if we just start staircasing higher, setting higher highs, then confirming the higher low, you know, looking for Stuber fibs to long, if anything, but we just start shooting to the upside like that. I have no interest in guessing a top until we would see something like this, where we have a higher low structure like that, and all of a sudden we end up losing that. At that point, that's where I would be interested at pulling a new bearish Stuber fib, something like that. My eye is really drawn to the 886 lately. But if we saw something like that, that's where I would start to get bearish again, when we actually break structure. And this is where everyone would start getting very bullish again, right into the trap. And again, just like what happened here, sure, maybe we just keep going to the upside. But this is more where I would start, again, at least becoming very cautious, because a lot of people would be bearish down here because people love getting bearish at support or those swing fail levels. And then they start getting very loud at resistance. You know, people start getting very bullish at resistance. So, you know, just something to consider there, that at least start being cautious. You know, if you end up, let's say, for example, you play that, you know, we broke this structure, we reclaim this, Kate. Now at that point, I'm looking to long this. At that point, you can start thinking about, you know, taking partial profits and reducing your risk and, you know, looking for hedges and that sort of thing with that type of structure, right? But obviously we don't have it yet. That's just the kind of structure that I'll be looking for if we do just start breaking out, right, and forming new structure, staircasing higher. I have no interest in guessing a top. I just really don't care what fib extension we go to. I don't care what nice round number we fly to. I don't care about any of that. What I do care about is where structure changes, because I'm more of an active trader. Maybe it's just habit from trading the lower time frames, but I want to react to when the structure changes at that point. So gonna have to see what happens now. Like I said, we are at an interesting time. It's dangerous from both sides. As I outlined earlier, we are either longing into resistance or we are shorting against a very strong trend. So, I mean, pick your poison, or sit on your hands, or, you know, reduce risk as quickly as possible and that sort of thing. You know, just be careful at these levels, you guys. Liquidations band indicator still providing a little bit of support. That is currently down around 105,000 US dollars. The point of control on the volume indicator, that's down around 95K. Still setting higher highs. ALGO master, do we have? No, that's an invalid Stuber fib because it's already broken out. It's already been invalidated because we went above this range, right? The fact that we got above the 0 fib before we came back to the 786, no longer valid, not a valid setup. AI charting tools, yeah, obviously building a ton of support below us on the 4 hour here. So yeah, like I said, guys, I mean, Bitcoin doesn't look too bad. Yes, this is a level to be cautious in either direction, but, you know, I think it still looks pretty good at this point. I would honestly, I'm expecting this head short to get stopped out. That is fine by me. This FWOG long, like I said, it's nice to see that this is still climbing. And again, just looking at some meme coins. I am actually going to take a look at some meme coins. So you guys, if you do have, I guess, first of all, any real, I say real, but any typical altcoins, bigger altcoins that you want me to check out, I'll take a look at Hype in a sec, because I know there's some Hype fans in here. Yeah, I'll take a look at a few things, but other than that, if you want to list off a few altcoins, meme coins, whatever, if not, I'll take a look at some meme coins that are, you know, more of the casino, the high risk shit that us degenerates love to see once in a while. You know, I'm talking things with like below a 10 mil market cap, those kinds of coins. I'll take a look at a few. But yeah, like I said earlier, Solana, I think that there was room to go yet. I do want to check out Ethereum as well. Like I said, with Solana, Ethereum, very much the same thing, right? I just think that it's not at macro resistance yet. So if it's going to do anything like Bitcoin, I think altcoins have a lot of catch up to play. At that point, honestly, that's not even, I don't know. I would actually consider pulling the full fib. Obviously, that's where Ethereum got rejected perfectly, right? The market makers love those levels, right? This was another time, guys, when the market got just absolutely euphoric. It was right into resistance, right? And that was after we had this structure break, because we had our higher high, confirmed higher low. We break that level, we pull back. People get very loud and FOMO-y and bullish on crypto Twitter and that sort of stuff right as we trade into resistance. And then what did that end up being? Off the 786, holy, we ended up getting a 65% correction. So I don't know if any of you guys caught that. I wasn't trading Ethereum, but man, that was an absolutely phenomenal Stuber fib setup there. That was absolutely huge. It obviously hit both. It hit the 0.5 target and the 214 target. Absolutely huge trades there, if anybody caught it. where are we right now? Also where we found support, actually. I don't think it was quite there. Oh, it was. There, same thing to the upside, right? And first target hit. Again, I'm not trading Ethereum, but just to show on a macro time frame, this is the weekly chart, guys. And just look how well these levels are being respected, right? Same to the upside, right? A 60% move to the upside. So absolutely huge off that fib level. But again, I do think that Ethereum has some room to go just because we're not at those macro fib pockets yet. Even if we wanted to look for trend lines, I know not everybody likes trend lines. But we could be looking for something like so, which honestly to me looks a little bit like an ascending triangle. I would love to see a third rejection off this to really clarify that that's a very well respected pattern, and then I would love to get into that sort of a breakout of this type of a triangle, because that would be an absolutely massive move. But we're going to have to see. As it stands right now, I don't like that it only has 2 touch points. Just this guy and this guy. Same with on the bottom side, right? Just 2 touch points each. So I'd like to see a third touch point before breaking out to actually consider a measured move. It's just a little rule of mine when playing breakout patterns and that sort of thing. But again, even if it climbs to there, that would be another 50% move to the upside. Even if we saw a retracement from there, it really does look like it's shaping up like this kind of a thing. So we're going to have to see. Be on the lookout for that. I'm going to save that because I want to keep an eye on that. What else? Well, guys, do we hop right into the degenerate trash? Like I said, FWOG is one of the bigger meme coins like that I trade. Like I said, it's around 100 mil market cap. As far as what I'm looking at on just spot, if we really want to get into the trash here, ass. And guys, these are, I want to say this is something like a $2 or $3 million market cap only, I think. So obviously, you know, when you're looking at this kind of stuff, understand that it is a bit of a gamble. It's a very high risk, high reward. I bought some of this back in like January, February. Totally forgot about it until all of a sudden I noticed it was up basically like 12x or something like that, but it still looks like it's forming nice structure, right? That's what I meant at the start of the video when I was talking about a lot of these meme coins with low market caps have been breaking very tight consolidations. I mean, just kind of look at some of these resistance levels where we just had the price coiling up in a very tight range and then ended up breaking that and just basically setting higher highs and higher lows, right? Higher high, slightly higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and that's where we currently stand. So my range currently on this, on the daily time frame like this, would look something like so. And again, voila, we go down to the 786, 886 fib pocket, and we actually ended up hitting the first 2 take profits, right? From the 886, boom, that was 100% move to the upside. So that's where I say, guys, like the last few weeks, I've been spot trading these low cap meme coins just as much, actually probably more than I've been leverage trading Bitcoin, just because with Bitcoin, we're in such a dangerous zone, but there's such, I guess, more obviously bullish structure on a lot of altcoins and meme coins right now. And that's a perfect example there. I actually wanted to see the Trendmaster. It hasn't printed a buy signal yet, but it really looks like it's trying to. So we're going to see what happens with that. Again, that's something like a $2 or $2.5 million market cap or something. So understand, guys, these Solana meme coins, they are basically VLT money. Do not risk more than you're willing to lose. If something spooks the market, they are going to get absolutely devastated. There's a lot of potential profits behind this kind of stuff. But again, there is very high probability that these coins just get absolutely fucking crippled. What's another one? I know Rocket is not in here, but he'll like this one, IQ 6900. I was talking about it in the micro caps. I know he's been talking about it. Same thing. Let's go to the daily chart. Are we? Yeah, we're on the log again. Let's get back to the regular chart here. Sorry, one sec. And kind of the same thing, right? Just look at how some of these coins have really coiled up into such tight consolidation here. And also just where we had this tight little range here was right in this old resistance. We found support there here, kind of finding support here, finding support here. Basically just flipping this box into beautiful support here and starting to break some structure to the upside, right? Because just looking at the immediate trend, and yes, this is a daily chart and these are going to be tight levels. Just look at here for as far as the structure goes, here would have been our low, and we ended up breaking that lower low. So here's our lower high. That is my confirmed lower high on the trend, and we obviously broke it here. Even though it was a swing fail, we got a pullback, a fairly significant one actually. About a 50%. But notice what happened after we did take out that structure, even though it was just a wick. Notice what happened after that. If we pull to where we topped out there, where did we come back and find support? Actually, a couple of times, right? So just, again, a measured move from that 886 where we ended up finding support there. Let's just call it the middle of the pocket, just assuming you'd ladder in like a typical Stuber fib. First target was 50%. Second target was, again, about 97%. And the double top territory, where with a potential swing fail here, was 130% move to the upside. So a nice aggressive bounce off that. So kind of crazy to see how structure, and this is something I talk about on pretty much all my streams, you guys, is structure is structure. I don't really care if it's the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 15 minute, the 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, weekly. I don't care if it's Bitcoin, it's stocks, it's meme coins. Like, guys, these coins that respected these Stuber fibs have a $2 or $3 million market cap, and they're still respecting that same type of market structure, right? So it's nothing crazy, and it's just very typical price action to see levels get broken and seeing very significant retracements, right? And that's one reason why I still believe, and not necessarily that it will happen, but I'm very open to the idea of some sort of a pullback, because we broke this high, right? We have our high. Like, if we're looking at these, how I was looking at every other chart, and I know a lot of people won't even want to see this and won't entertain the idea. It's possible. I don't know if it's probable, but it's possible, is that since we broke this structure, if this was a typical 5 minute, we'd be saying high. We've now got a higher high. This would be my confirmed higher low on the macro time frame, right? Lowest point between the high and the higher high. If we pull a fib from there, I mean, it's wherever, and we could just keep going to the upside. And the thing is, this could keep going for the entire bull market. I'm not saying that we need to come down to this level, but that is definitely something that I would be interested in continuing to pull until we basically break some structure. So at this point, it would be very natural if we see some sort of a rejection here to do something like this before taking off again. I really don't know how probable it is, but it's a possibility, because like I said, I treat structure the same on every time frame, every asset. And if this were a 5 minute chart, I wouldn't be looking at longing right now, because again, trading into resistance, into swing fail level. Even though, yeah, breakouts do happen, they're just risky to play. And I'm more interested in playing retracements, and I can wait for the next setup if I don't get something. But realistically, I'm not waiting for a 4 hour setup to get in down here, because I trade more so the 5 minute. But this would be very, very healthy price action, in my opinion, if we could come back and retest some, like an actual macro swing level of support. But obviously, we still have the micro trend going to the upside. Basically, as long as we're staying above 100K, there's really nothing to worry about at this point. What else? How are you guys all feeling on the market, by the way? Are you guys like full on astronaut suit on? Do you think that we are due for a correction? Do you just have no clue what's going on? honestly, I'm a little bit on the fence. Like I said, I feel like the market is bullish. I'm way more bullish on altcoins than Bitcoin right now. I'm open to the idea of a potential rejection or, you know, time-based correction, whatever. I'm open to the idea. I just don't know how probable it is. So that's why I'm taking these hedge shorts when I can and updating my stop loss. It's a no-risk trade, but I just want to be covered because, you know, just in case. And I'll continue taking these setups. I really don't care as long as I'm not losing a bunch of money. Like, I really don't care if I end up getting stopped out at break even when I keep trying these trade setups. Generally, over the last couple weeks, I have been taking those partial profits at the TP levels. It's just that, you know, on this setup, I'm really not too worried about it. I'm just going to let it run. But Adrian's fantastic. Well, that is fantastic. I like that. I like the look of that. I'm going to picture you as that from now on. Fog's still mooning. So fog, for example, just going to zoom out on the 5 minute a little bit here. As far as this current structure, this would have been our previous high. So we had our high, higher low. So it's still very possible, just looking for a live example ahead of time here, you know, something like this, right? Pulling a fib from the lowest point between the high and the higher high. If the price ends up dropping down into this box, that for me would be, I'd be looking at that as a buy level, basically. Just because we have that higher high, and it's not saying the price has to come down here, right? We could just absolutely go like this. That's fine. Trade setups come and go. They don't always, your setups don't always happen. You're just getting ready for them if your criteria is met, right? So that's more so why I'm laying that out, just to get ready for it, just in case. So we'll have to see what happens there. Looks alike. Getting back up to that 786 there. I don't really want to pull a bearish fib like this because we didn't actually lose a higher low there, right? Because same thing, we have our high, higher low. Actually, did we end up getting a Stuber there? Not quite. Very close. Again, just maybe a sign of strength, right? The fact that we never quite got down to the 786, got stopped a little bit early there. But yeah. Oh yeah, I was going to look at hype, wasn't I? Is there an older chart of hype, or does it only go back to December? Adrian, you probably know the answer. Like, are we right at all-time highs with hype as well? BitGet will be fine. What about BloFin? I'm on BloFin. There's more to the chart. Okay, I kind of thought so. Okay, is that... That's BitGet. That is spot. Every chart I pick is showing that. Yeah, whatever. I'm just going to look at the shorter time frames anyways because I'm clearly struggling. The trend on the 4 hour is still looking great, right? The fact that we've just done some of that microstructure. So just looking at the current trend, I'm actually going to change this color. This started bugging me. But basically we had our high here. This was a higher high. So our higher low was confirmed down here. Now the fact that we got a higher high again, now we have our new confirmed higher low. So I'd be looking at this as far as the micro trend for, you know, the basically the higher low that I wouldn't want to see us drop below, because if we do, then I could start looking for bearish Stubers, right? If the price just ends up doing something like this, that's basically where I would start just following the price to the downside. Let's say that is where it stopped, and then you could start looking for being careful, looking for hedges short, etc. from this level, just because at that point we did lose the micro higher low, right? But so far we don't have that. We just have a series of higher lows, higher highs. Where was the one before that? Would have been there, so we would have had a higher low there, etc., etc. So right now for hype, I mean, something that would be nice to get into some sort of a retrace would just be wherever the price, if we end up going a little higher, just kind of keep following the price. But if the price were to stop right here, right now, you know, then we have potential support. If the bulls are going to remain in full control there, I would expect to find support either in this fib or swing fail territory, double bottom, whatever. But that would be a nice long to get into, in my opinion, as long as, you know, this trend is going to continue, right? Obviously calculated risk, the fact that this would be invalidating the trend, so stop loss somewhere down here. Again, not hanging on to something. Basically if we lose the 115, which would be just below $30.07, at that point I would just start to really lose faith in the setup, and the Stuber fib is then invalidated. And at that point, yeah, sure, holding spot is one thing, but as far as looking for a long, I would start to lose faith in it. We end up starting to lose that microstructure. I feel like at that point we're just coming down and testing some lower levels in the previous ranges and that sort of thing. But yeah, as it stands right now on the 4 hour, that's a beautiful trend. 5 minute, what do we got here? We technically got bearish on the 5 minute. So we may see a little bit, you know, that might set us up to get into a long down here. We could look at something like this. I would have a hard time pulling the trigger on shorting altcoins right now, but as far as the Stuber fib setup goes, there is technically one there. Basically looking at the microstructure. I mean, we could look at this a few ways. If you want to look at it as this is our high, higher low, either way, it was broken. But looking at the real microstructure, how it formed here was a high, and we did go slightly higher. So this is actually where we ended up losing that structure. And yeah, notice that we formed a little downtrend. And eventually, yeah, you're going to get some sort of a bounce. So now we see if the bears step back in at this level and push us down here. I would love to swing at a long down there. Oh, that was all the chart. Ooh, phew, perfect. 4 hour. Let's check a couple indicators on hype. Check out Trendmaster. I mean, yeah, obviously we have support following the trend right now. Wow, that was a nice buy signal. It was even a lower one. But as soon as we invalidated that lower sell signal, basically, right? Because we had this sell signal, lower sell signal, which was a beautiful one, right? Playing right off that sell. It did drop the price another almost 40%. But that buy, and after we ended up breaking, just looking at basically the sell signal, the structure before it, there's where we pivoted from. As soon as we ended up breaking that, notice we did flip that resistance into support here. And how much of a move has that been so far? A 96% move to the upside. Basically 100%. So absolutely beautiful. And just another way that I like to use the indicators, right? It's not so much just the buy signal. Yeah, obviously that buy signal played out fantastic. But more so getting confirmed when we break that downtrend of lower setting sell signals. That's where we were basically able to confirm that, hey, the downtrend looks like it's broken here. IQ still pulling back a little bit, have that swing fail there. So this is another one of those setups. Again, obviously high risk because it's a little memer coin. But this is another one of those times where we did, even though it's a wick, technically high, higher high, confirmed higher low. So if I was looking for buying support, I'd basically be looking at something like so. That wouldn't be leverage, obviously. It's a tiny market cap memer. And that's the daily, right? Shorter time frames may have something different. Actually, I can see one there. As far as the micro trend on the 4 hour. Oh, no, actually I lied. Nothing has changed. On the micro trend, you could say high, higher low. Yes, I can see that structure there, but it's a little bit messy because technically this wasn't the high, higher high. This was the high. This is the higher high. That means our higher low is here. So the exact same as it was on the daily, right? But either way, even on this current trend here, I mean, I would like to see it find support right around here. Trading right around that micro 886 there. But we will see. Very, very close to taking my break-even stop there. Very close. I assume it will happen, but maybe not, right? Because it is technically above that 214, but it looks like it's going to happen right away. And honestly, I would love to see Bitcoin. Well, actually, what I would really like to see is to see Bitcoin calm its titties a little bit and give the altcoins a chance to play catch up. I think that would just be phenomenal. I do want to take a look at Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance did obviously drop off a cliff, and that is where, like I said a couple weeks ago, when the micro caps really started popping off. I mean, we obviously lost a very strong uptrend here, a fairly steep one, very steep drop off there, and even where we are, we never did get to a Stuber fib there by any means. To be honest, I've never used them on the Bitcoin dominance. I just assume that it gets respected quite often. But you know what? Maybe it's just going to stop shy. Maybe this is where Bitcoin dominance tops. And we do end up nuking to the downside, and that would be fantastic for altcoins, right? As long as Bitcoin never, if we see the Bitcoin dominance dropping off a cliff, or and the price is also dropping off a cliff, I would start to have some concerns that, I would still think that altcoins could go for a run, but I would start to have those serious concerns that this may actually be near the end of the cycle. If the money, rather than flowing into the market, it just starts circulating and, pumping things, and, just kind of moving those profits around rather than new money actually coming into the space. That's where I would start to have my concerns. But if the Bitcoin dominance is dropping and the price is staying somewhat stable, I think that would be a great deal of strength, because it would be like, oh, even though focus is off Bitcoin, it's not like they're panic selling or anything like that. It's just taking a time-based correction or something like that instead. That would show a great deal of strength in the markets, in my opinion. But yeah, what else? So there we go, out of my head short. That is fine. I would love to try again if we get a swing fail of our new level. Again, it's not like it was a losing trade. It was just, I am now just, well, I guess I would have lost on the fees a little bit. But yeah, just basically looking at for the next chance that I can hedge against my portfolio. But realistically, I'm rooting for the bulls as well. right? I'm trying to protect myself, but I would love to see my altcoin bags absolutely explode, just like the next guy. You know, another example or another reason why we could see a bit of a swing fail is just that we have this high here connecting the lines looking for some sort of a trend line. If we got a third touch point on that, it would be a perfect swing fail level, and I would love to end up reshorting some sort of a hedge there. There is the potential for finding resistance right around where we are right now. It's just a little bit risky, guys, because there was never really a higher low lost. I guess technically there might be a very, very micro one there, but that's even getting a little ridiculous for me. I'm looking at it as more as high, higher low. So the fact that we haven't broke that, there's not an actual Stuber fib there. There's the potential 786 resistance, but it just doesn't check all my boxes for an actual valid Stuber setup is all. I would rather look for a tighter risk short, something off a swing fail level at this point. But we'll see how things develop. Inge, I can take a peek at Inge. And actually, sorry, before I do that, I do want to look at Eng as well. Since Eng is in writing there, I will look at that in a sec. But Eng did catch my attention the other day, and I did actually buy a little bit of spot in this as well. Basically, same thing, right? We just broke a very, well, just a downtrend in general, right? We did technically, this was our low. Yeah, we got a little bit of a swing fail there, but low, lower low. So if you want to consider this a swing fail, I mean, there's your bullish setup either way on this, you know, when we're showing support along that level, big bullish signal there. And as well, then if you did consider this a micro low, lower low, there you would have obviously broke that structure. It actually would have flipped that resistance into support beautifully right there. So there's a few things going for Eng as well, and that's the daily chart. I doubt the trend mass. Well, we're starting to get above that sell signal at least, so we might get a nice buy signal. Unfortunately, it's not a higher one, nothing like that, but you know, like I showed earlier, there's been a few nice movers on those higher time frames that get those buy signals recently, and it does kind of look like it wants to do that as well. So a little bit of confluence obviously hasn't happened yet. The 4 hour, looking at structure, the exact same there. Trendmaster, we do have a series of higher sells and higher buys, right? And just to look at how powerful those were on the way down, when we get our lower sell signal, I mean, look how much that absolutely devastated this price, about 75% to the downside. And now all of a sudden we have now printed, we did get a higher buy signal, and now we've got a higher sell signal and another higher buy signal on the 4 hours. So that's a nice looking trend with some nice confluence there from the MDX Trendmaster indicator. So something to consider that caught my attention. So Eng is another altcoin that I picked up recently. Inge. What type of a time frame? I'll just check a bunch of time frames. How about that? 4 hour, we are in perfect potential double top zone, obviously. I actually want to start with naked chart here. Let's bring up the RSI. So the RSI never got that bearish divergence, right? Because it shot up into overbought territory again. So it doesn't quite have the double top divergence setup that I have back tested extensively. There is the fact that we lost some structure here. So now this pullback, this would actually be a valid Stuber fib. Just again, I have a hard time betting against altcoins right now. And especially that, you know, that RSI and overbought conditions. Yeah, we're technically at resistance here. You could get a double top play here, but it just obviously has some high risk involved right now. Trendmaster, higher sell signal, higher buy signal, right? So even if there is a little bit of a rejection here, if this Stuber fib were to play out, I mean, the first target lines up quite well with this indicator as potential confluence there, so I don't really see it going much lower than that. If it even drops there, right? The fact that it's a higher buy signal, I mean, look, we never did come back down and test this one here. We just shot straight to the upside. So, you know, I'd have a hard time betting against that trend right now. And that's the 4 hour. I will zoom into the 5 minute if you're looking at more of a scalp type of a setup. Not seeing too much there. Oops. Let me get rid of some indicators here. Let me actually remove my drawings. What do we have here? Technically, we had a little bearish Stuber here, right? Because we had our high. Technically, this was our higher high. Confirmed higher low. Higher high. Confirmed higher low. We ended up breaking that here. So again, there was a swing fail there. We retested the top of that range, but if you look what happened here, perfect 886 rejection and then to the downside. So on the 5 minute, there is still technically a bit of concern there. But again, I would have a hard time betting against altcoins right now. Especially the fact that this downtrend may have ended, right? Because technically on a very micro level, I get it. Not everybody likes to analyze this small of structure, but we have this low here, slightly lower low, confirmed lower high, lower low, confirmed lower high. We broke that. No surprise here. We end up pulling back to the Stuber fib when that structure breaks, and then boom. So kind of mixed signals, right? Because obviously this bullish setup as far as a scalp would have played out already because it hit the 214 fib. But again, this downtrend just may not be in play anymore. So just another reason why I'd have a hard time shorting against INJ at this point. Basically, no matter how you look at it, the price is currently in this range. Yeah, shorts are still very heavy there. Hey, Adrian. You're just showing retail short versus long there. Short accounts 68.3%, long accounts 31.7%. Yeah. Very close to these numbers here that I was talking about. Exactly, right? There's still so much retail trying to short this pump right now that I'm only interested in doing it for hedge purposes. I'm not bearish anymore because I just think that that's a lot of rocket fuel. The fact that people are still trying to short it, I still think there's a little room. But again, guys, like I've been saying basically this whole stream, just please be careful out there, because no matter how you look at it, we're just in a dangerous zone, right? We're in swing fail territory. If we pull this fib as far as a Stuber fib setup goes, if we start closing 4 hour candles very close to the 115, I'm just going to swing at shorts just for the fact that it's such a potentially large move compared to the invalidation, right? Trading isn't all about just winning all your trades. It's about catching the real big ones as well. Not even just like aiming at home run trades or anything like that, but just looking at the risk versus the potential reward on something like that is just obviously astronomical, right? If we could get into a short somewhere up here, stop loss somewhere up here, and if it is going to play out as a Stuber fib and hit even the first target would be a 13-1, you hit the full target there, you're looking at a 20-1 risk reward, right? So even though it may not be likely that it's going to reverse, if we start getting closes there and it looks like it's getting a little toppy on shorter time frames, that's a very high risk reward ratio there, and the type of setup that I would love to swing at for no reason other than the fact that we're so close to the invalidation, and it's still a valid setup, right? Going short from right here is no different than me going short from right here. It's still in the same valid trade setup, just a much smaller risk involved. So I would take that, but we're going to have to see what happens, obviously. I don't know if we're going to get up that close, but again, the shorter time frames, if I can see hedge positions, I'm still interested in taking them. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. Also, though, for those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX algo indicators that I've been showing, there's a 10% discount link in the description down below as well. I've also got a private Telegram channel where I share some ideas, some potential scalp setups, Stuber fib levels, and just kind of my general thoughts on the market overall. A place for me to keep all my thoughts together and just have my my posts there, not a full-on chat, right? So it's completely free for people who trade on BloFin using my sign up link and follow the steps in the description down below. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.